Stupid facts. We'll be right back. Well, welcome to Stupid Facts. Sorry. Good day, everybody. Welcome. A few things to talk about. I gather that Senator Damion, brother Anancy, Crawford, was ranting and raging in the Senate sometime last week, claiming that the 2020 elections is directly responsible for a spike in COVID-19. And he mentioned two words, correlation and causation, right? We'll get to that in a moment. Mr. Crawford was saying that he was the lone person in the wilderness calling for the Prime Minister not to call the election last year, and that it would cause a spike. Mr. Crawford goes on to say that he is vindicated. Well, on the other hand, I have long said that the 2020 election did not cause a spike in COVID-19. Let me put it in perspective. It is a well-known fact that we would definitely have a spike in the COVID-19, as is the case in pandemics, right? There was a spike in almost every country. So what is it about Jamaica that Jamaica would not have had a spike? Except for the election, which is single-handedly was the cause of the spike. Right? According to Damion Crawford. At the time when we had the election last year, and after the election, the cases were very minimal. Right? There were spikes in almost every single country, and there were no elections in those countries. Not one election. But there was a spike. There were spikes in almost every country in the Caribbean. Without an election. Right? So, and the cases in Jamaica are very limited, right? Very minimal right now. The daily cases. So it stands to reason that the election of last year did not cause the spike. Right? it is a reckless and irresponsible behavior of people that caused the spike in COVID-19 last year, leading into this year, leading up to this year. Right? So Damion Crawford is wrong. Absolutely wrong. And he mentioned two words. He says, while causation, right? While it was not causation, there was correlation. Because he says causation does not necessarily lead to correlation. Something to that effect, he said, right? But hold on a little bit. Causation is where one action causes the outcome, is where an action causes the outcome of another action. That's causation. Action A causes the outcome of action B. Correlation is one action relates to the other action. For instance, action A relates to action B. Or it's a relationship, right? Or a connection, a relationship, or a connection of two or more things. That's correlation. So I'm not sure which word is it that Mr. Crawford is trying to use. Because if he believes what he's saying, that action A, which is the election, causes a spike, causes action B, which is a spike in COVID-19. That's causation. That's causation. Right? It could be a correlation in the sense where action A is connected to action B, which is the election is connected to the spike. So I think Mr. Crawford is confused here in his English. A confusion in his English, or in his understanding of the English language. Right? I dismissed both correlation and causation because the election of 2020 has no connection or relationship to the spike, nor did it cause the spike. So there is no correlation and no causation whatsoever. Right? Welcome back to stupid facts. While we're talking about COVID-19, we might as well talk about the Prime Minister's pronouncement last week that there are some intellectuals and entertainers who were advocating against the vaccine. And suddenly the media and all those people came down on the Prime Minister as if the Prime Minister was saying something that was not true. Sorry. Right? There were intellectuals and entertainers, notably Buju Banton, Sprague Benz, and a few other entertainers who were advocating against folks taking the vaccine. Right? And we're also saying against the Prime Minister's locking down, curfews and so on and so forth. And there were some intellectuals as well who were against the vaccine. And we all know that on the intellectuals' part, we all know, sir, that the 14th garrison of Jamaica, there are about 15 garrisons in Jamaica, 14 or 15, and the 14th garrison in Jamaica, the Institute of Lower Learning, or better known, the intellectual ghetto, up there at Mona in Kingston, where the intellectuals reside. Though some of those same intellectuals are responsible, let me repeat, are responsible for the mess in which the country finds itself in after the experimentation of the socialism by Michael Manley in the 1970s. They were in beds with the PNP, cheering on Mr. Manley, right? And the 18 plus years thereafter were cheering on, cheering on the PNP. These intellectuals bear a brunt of the blame for the decay and the mess that the PNP left the country in after 30 years of governance from that party. Right? And since we're on the business of entertainers, Barbados Minister of Home Affairs recently has come out against lyrics from certain DJs, Jamaican DJs. And rightly so. I said it, sir. If I am going to be the lone voice against DJ music, then so be it. DJ music is a cancer to Jamaica. Is a cancer. It is at the root. Not solely responsible for the high murder rate in Jamaica, but it is a part and parcel of it. Right? It is a bad kind of music for the most part. Especially these nowadays DJs. It bears it bears some responsibility for the decay of society and a breakdown in discipline and morals and so on and so forth. Right? It is. We have to agree that it is. Right? It's a ghetto hood rat kind of music that they're producing. That's what it is. Right? It's a mess. It's a mess. It's a mess. Particularly the nowadays DJ music. Right? It is. On the issue of George Wright, MP George Wright of Central Westmoreland, who was accused of beating a woman on a video, and there was outcry for him to resign. Well, let me say this. There is no law exists at the moment in Jamaica to force George Wright out of Parliament. None. There were two likely outcomes: resignation or exit from the JLP. We got the latter. George Wright resigned from the JLP. And if you ask me, that was a clever move on the part of George Wright. Now, as far as I'm concerned, he's not the problem. He's not the JLP's problem anymore. George Wright is not the JLP's problem anymore. Right? That's the problem for the PNP to figure out. Right? He's not a member of the JLP anymore. So the JLP is not concerned about George Wright. That's between him and the PNP. If the PNP is upset about him, then they should ask him to resign, which I'm sure they have already done so. If George Wright wants to stay in Parliament as an independent, then he has a right to. When elections are called, the people of Central Westmoreland will decide his fate. Which, if you ask me, he will not return as MP because it is very hard for independents to win seats in Jamaica. Right? The one thing the PNP had was hoping to gain traction from was the George Wright story. And that now has been taken from under their feet. So there's nothing else left for them. Right? The George Wright has left the JLP. So they cannot accuse the JLP of shielding George Wright and of not doing anything about the George Wright story. It's not the JLP's problem anymore. No. It's the problem of George Wright, and if the PNP wants to still make it their problem, then go ahead. But the JLP has nothing to do with George Wright anymore. Nothing. Zero. Right? I tell you something. Welcome back, Stupid Facts. There's another story I'd like to talk about, and it has to do with Parliament considering a law that would allow the prosecution, which is the state, to appeal. At the moment, only the defense can appeal. But there's talk about a law which would give the state or the prosecution the right to appeal. And I support that law. If I would support that law. The criminal lawyers are up in arms against it, right? And the director of public prosecutions, Paula Llewellyn, says, grow up to criminal lawyers. And she rightly says, justice is not only about the defense. It is also about the victims. Right? And I fully agree. How many times do we have people who have committed crimes gotten away in court? How many times have we had that? Huh? You know what justice is, sir? You know what justice is, in my view? Justice is not about the process alone, right? Oh, we have a process of due process where we have the judge, the prosecution, and the defense, and witnesses, and evidence. That's due process, right? And appeals and so on and so forth, right? Justice is not just about that, you know. Justice is about the guilty is found guilty. Let me put it another way. Justice is about criminals being found guilty. That's the correct way. Criminals being found guilty. People who did not commit a crime are found innocent. That is justice. Justice is not about you commit a crime, but you went to court, and because there's lack of evidence, you're acquitted. Right? You kill somebody or you rape somebody, and because there's a lack of evidence, you got away in court. That's not justice. No. It is justice for the lawyer, the criminal lawyer. And, well, they think it's justice for them. Right? The criminal lawyer and the criminal, him or herself. That's not justice, you know. Justice is if you kill the person, rape the person, did the crime, then you're found guilty. And the state must not rest until you're found guilty. That's justice. And if you didn't commit the crime, then it is a duty of all involved that you're found, if the law is that good, then you're found innocent. Right? We don't want people we don't want murderers walking around free. No, we don't want serial rapists walking around free. No, we don't want criminals walking around free because they got away in court. No. And that is what this law is about. That is what this law would be about. Rather, about justice for the victims. The victims, right, who are mourning their loved ones being murdered or raped, finally getting justice. Right? And the state must not rest until they get justice. That is what this law is about. Or would be about. Right? So, criminal lawyers are up in arms against this proposed law. Right? Welcome back to Stupid Facts. The Planning Institute of Jamaica is forecasting that the economy is set to grow by 9% this quarter, 9% GDP this quarter, and 48% for fiscal year 2021-2022. That is good news. That is good news. This is a confirmation of the leadership of Prime Minister Andrew Holness and the stewardship of the Minister of Finance and the Public Service, Dr. Nigel Moore. It is a confirmation that the right team is in place. The right government is in office. This JLP government is on the right track, right? And in the midst of a pandemic and at a massive dislocation of the economy, bearing in mind, as a result of rather a fall in tourism revenue, a fall in revenue period, manufacturing, folks have to get laid off because of the pandemic and so on and so forth, right? Things are looking good now. Things are up. There's an uptick in the economy at the moment, and things are looking good, very good, thanks to the Prime Minister's visionary leadership and the foresight of Dr. Nigel Moore, one of the most brilliant and capable finance minister that this country, that Jamaica has seen since the days of Edward Seaga, right? For the economy to grow at 4 to 8% GDP for fiscal year 2021-22, that would be remarkable. That's remarkable news at the moment, right? It sir, every time the JLP is always the party of economic growth and development. If you think I'm lying, go back and look at history. Go back and look at history. It's never ever the PNP. Never. Never was. And I doubt it ever will be. Folks, thanks for listening to Stupid Facts. Enjoy the rest of your day. And I'll see you here next week. Same time, same place. Have yourselves a wonderful day.